Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Odorico, and right alongside each and every week, of course, is my good friend, Legends Tour player and LPGA professional, Cindy Miller, and we are the hosts of the Women of Golf Show. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm great. It's a beautiful day in Buffalo, 75 and sunny.
Yeah, same here in Florida for once. For my girlfriend Carol, of course, as I've mentioned before, is in the education business, and of course, it's been a lousy summer down here in the southeast for a while, just with all this rain. And she said, sure enough, the first day that she goes back to school, which was yesterday, it was this clear, beautiful, sunny sky. So I said, well, it is what it is. Just enjoy the day. But anyways, we're glad that you joined me join us this morning here on the Women of Golf Show. Let me just remind everybody, of course, we are live every Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern here on the blogtalkradio.com network. Just go to blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf, or just type Women of Golf, and that will take you to the main page, and you can listen to us live every Tuesday mornings. Or you can go scroll down to the on-demand section if you can't join us during our live broadcast, and you can listen to all of the previously recorded shows as well. Also, don't forget we're available at iTunes.com and Stitcher.com. Just go into the podcast section. Again, type Women of Golf, and you can listen on either of those platforms if those are a preference for you. Love to hear from you. You're welcome to call in during the live shows on Tuesdays. The number to call is area code 347-945-5855. And as always, we would love to hear from you. Please feel free to reach out to either myself or Cindy. Cindy's email is cindy@cindymillergolf.com, and mine is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. We've got a great show for you this morning. We're going to start out with a discussion I think that really needs to be had, and Cindy and I are going to get the ball rolling, and then I'm actually going to pick this up Thursday night on my other show, Golf Talk Live, with the Coach's Corner panel. We're going to continue the conversation Thursday evening, but it's dealing with an aging golf population. Cindy and I are going to talk about that in just a second, but I also want to let you know that we've got a very special guest coming up in the second half of the show, Wendy Gray. She's a certified personal trainer, an entrepreneur, and co-founder of Bargray Clothing. She's going to be joining us on the second half. Cindy, I want to start obviously with our discussion this morning, dealing with an aging golf population. I don't have all the stats in front of me. I didn't get a chance to compile them together, but I would say probably 2/3 of those that are golfing today, and I'm going to get out of the professional arena for a second, but I'm going to talk about probably about 2/3 of them are in the upper category of their lifespan. And the reason why I say this is there doesn't seem to be as many young golfers coming into the game as there was. And there's obviously with the baby boomer population and stuff, I think that's kind of made it. But I wanted to ask you your thoughts on a few things as well. And the first question I've got is, does our teaching methods need to adjust in order for us to be able to adapt to meet their changing goals? Obviously, as golfers age, their goals might change and their approach might change. And also, do we need to spend less time teaching the mechanics of the golf swing and more on scoring opportunities? What are your thoughts?
Good question. What I would say is that I teach people to hit it straight on purpose, no matter how old they are. So I don't change how I teach someone depending on their age, ever. what I would suggest is that them exactly, how to hit the ball and make it go straight.
Mm-hmm.
I also would suggest that I think we need to help them with realistic expectations to learn how to hit it straighter and possibly chip and putt better. And once the realistic expectations show up, then it's easier to, again, help them score better and understand that, shooting 90 is really good.
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't have that many issues with older students.
I think that what I'm asking is this: I think that there comes a point in time, and I'm sure you've heard a few grumble along the way, but a lot of the older golfers, and I'm talking about getting into the 60s, 70s, and even up in the 80s. Obviously, below that, it's a little bit different category, but a lot of the older golfers, there's become a level of frustration as farther time ticks on. Their bodies aren't functioning the same way. They don't have the same energy levels and things like that. So, even though they would all love to hit it a little bit further, I think it becomes more of a maintenance. In other words, you're probably not going to see drastic improvements as far as ball striking ability. I mean, there may be some depending on the situation. But you're not going to necessarily see vast improvements because your body is just changing all the time. But that doesn't mean you can't affect the scoring. And I think there's areas of the game, particularly the short game, that are going to be more applicable, I think, at that point. I mean, it's always important to work on your short game, but I think even more so as we get older, because distance is something that, you're probably not going to hit it a lot further. I don't know what you think about that, but the equipment nowadays has changed so much that it gives you certainly some advantages. But if you're 75 years old and you're hitting it, 200 yards down the fairway, and you're hoping you're going to be able to bump it up to 250 to 300, I don't believe that that's going to happen. Any thoughts there?
Yeah,
right, exactly.
It's not realistic.
And that goes to, and that goes what you said. So that's why I guess what I'm saying is I don't necessarily think that we need to change per se our methods, but I think we need to focus on areas that are going to give them the best improvement. I'll give you an example. I had a gentleman a while back who he would be probably about 64 or 65. He struggled a little bit with his game. He's owns his own company, and after the usual, how long have you played? What do you do to, how many times a week do you get out there and work on your game? These types of questions. I don't think at this time you want to necessarily reinvent the wheel. He has a pretty good swing. He can, connect with the ball fairly well. But where he lacks is his consistency in his short game. He's all over the place. Sometimes so his distance control was an issue with his short game. He wasn't hitting his wedges and things like that a consistent distance. They're all over the place. So I just think that you need to maybe narrow the focus a little bit in that area when it comes to working with some of the older players, as opposed to just trying to always work on gaining distance. And as you said, I think you certainly want to make sure that they're hitting it straight as possible and as consistently as possible. I think that's obviously important as well. But I agree with you. I don't think you necessarily have to change your methods, but I think you have to make sure that the students are being realistic in their approach. All right?
One thing I do find with, and it happened twice yesterday with, we'll say students over 60, is they get the flinches. And
yes.
the flinch factor raises, and it starts with their sand wedge, and it can creep into the whole game. And I had to call in Alan yesterday because I had a guy that was shanking it, and he's leaving for Ireland tomorrow. And was,
wow.
I can't do this in Ireland. And so Alan helped him. Alan is shank king. He can help anybody get out of the shanks. But I think it happens with older people, men specifically, because they play more than women, I think, at that age. And we really have to help them get over the shankopotamus, if you will. And I think it's them trying too hard, and I think their subconscious mind and their self-talk is, like, oh, my God, I'm getting old. I don't hit it anywhere. It's like, okay, you can't go there. You got to stop. You got to be as good as you can be for what you got right here, right now. Quit germinating over all the stuff that you can't do, and let's figure out what you can do. So I think that's kind of what you're saying is, we're all getting older, and depending on where you are, how good can you be for what you got right now?
I think the other thing, Cindy, that obviously changes as we get older is the fluidity of our swing. When you're younger, it's a little bit more fluid. Your timing and everything is a little bit more consistent. I think just because of the nature of how our bodies change, obviously we get some aches and pains as we get a little bit older. And I think it causes, like you said, people to flinch a little bit more. And again, probably more men than women, just because men tend to get less active, unfortunately, as we get older than women do. And I think that causes some problems. And probably in the short game, as you said, it starts maybe with the sand wedge or wedge play in general, and then eventually can creep into the rest of the game. But I see this a lot of time when I see older golfers on the practice tee. They're out there and they'll pull out their club and they'll kind of take it back pretty good, but then it's kind of almost like a jerking motion to come into the downswing. It's almost like they're in pain a little bit sometimes hitting that shot. So I don't know if they're over. Well, no, it's true. I mean, I hate to say it, but it's true. And exactly. And also, too, and this is something we're going to talk about in a few minutes because I don't want to jump ahead of this, but there's an issue with the feet as well that plays a big factor. But I want to move on to the next question, and that is the assessment. Obviously we do assessments when we're working with students as they come to us, new students. We do sort of a full assessment, the whys and the wheres and all that kind of stuff. Is it important to reassess our students' needs, and how often should we be doing that? So let's say you've had a student, you've been working with them for a little while. How often should we reassess that student's needs and the process as we continue to work with them? It should be an annual thing, should it be a semi-annual, or it should be a continual process? What do you think?
Well, I think it should be continual. I would just say, has anything new come up? How are you physically? I would ask them, each time they come. Personally, just to see what they're able to do. You want to make sure they're flexible enough and there's no issues in their body. Now, a full physical TPI assessment, I think once a year is fine.
Right.
But each time they come in, how have you been? Again, depending on how often they come in. If they come in every week, then no, that's probably not necessary. But if they come in, given a space of time between each session, then you need to ask them. So what have you been doing? Any physical
what
changes?
I try to do if I'm working with somebody on a regular basis, like a weekly basis, I might, beginning of every month, the first session, I might do just that. Again, every week it's not necessarily, but if every month we may kind of go through a general assessment and kind of review the previous month. What changes we made, how they helped, how they affected the game, that sort of thing, and what they see, how they value, or not value, but how they gauge their performance. Are they seeing the improvements in a steady way, or is it sort of up and down, up and down? But just going back very quickly to what I was saying a second ago, because this is going to go into our next question about the feet. In your opinion, do you think today's footwear is really comfortable for senior golfers? And let me just preface this a little bit. I'm always looking at the equipment and things like that and seeing what's new on the market. And one of the complaints I get from a lot of senior golfers is their shoes aren't comfortable. Not that they don't fit, but they don't give them the support. As we get older, our arches start to change, things like that. From what you've seen, Cindy, and maybe talked about with other players, do you think that they're really meeting that need as well as they could be?
Well, I think that most of the footwear, in the olden days or a long time ago, the FootJoy shoes were so heavy, but they had such great support, and I think then fashion took over, and now I think that Echo and Skechers definitely have footwear that has a little more support, even though they're more like sneakers. They're trying to make shoes lighter, and I think a lot of people have orthotics that have been custom fit to them. I know an awful lot of players do, and that doesn't matter, age doesn't matter there. I think there's an awful lot of tour players. I would bet that 9 out of 10 tour players have custom orthotics inside their shoes. So, again, I'm not sure where you're trying to lead me, but I would say that Echoes and Skechers probably do. I think the FootJoy shoes are okay, but a lot of the fashion shoes, absolutely not. There's no support whatsoever.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was getting at is, there's a lot of great styles in that out there, but, a lot of, and I'll give you an example, you look at a lot of seniors out there, and you look at their general everyday footwear, and I'm going to use more men than women because I think, again, men usually tend to have this happen a little bit earlier, but, they tend to get into a more orthotic style footwear, whether it be a running shoe or other shoe, in order to give them that support. And I just wonder if maybe their choice in golf shoe wear should be more well thought out. And again, I'm not knocking any of the main brands out there, but again, FootJoy is certainly a great brand, but I just wonder if they offer as much support. Because, the reason why I say this too, Cindy, is, if you watch a lot of the senior players out there, and I'm not talking about on the tours, I'm just talking about in general, you see a lot, what I call a lot of the duck waddle. Their stride in that is more side to side instead of front to, forward and backward. And it's because they're very unsteady on their feet. Actually, Catherine Roberts was on last week on the Coach's Corner panel. I know you know her quite well. And she talked about how in our feet as we age, the nerves and nerve endings in that start to decrease in their effectiveness. So what ends up happening is you actually don't feel the ground as well as you did earlier on. And what that causes a lot of people to do is to feel very unsteady on their feet because they can't actually feel the ground through the soles of their feet like they once did. So this goes to, and people might be listening and they might be saying, well, what is that? Who cares about that? Why is that important? Well, as we know, the golf swing begins from the ground up, and if you're unsteady on your feet, you're not going to make those transitions properly into your backswing, into your forward swing. And if you're sort of waddling around at the best of times, you're going to have difficulty, and you're going to get into some of the things that you talked about, Cindy, where you're kind of in that flinching. And I think that's what causes a lot of the flinching is the muscles, but also I think people are unsteady on their feet, especially as they age. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I can tell you that BodyTrack and FootJoy have partnered together to help fit people with golf shoes that will help their center of pressure. So they have a computer app, if you will, that will help players get fit for the right shoe with the right center of pressure in their feet. So I think you're onto something. And I think BodyTrack Sports invented a mat with sensors in it that measures pressure in your feet, center of pressure. So I believe that, people are aware of that, and FootJoy is aware of that, and they're trying to make changes. And I think that, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think the consumer just needs to be aware of that, especially, as I said, our older golfers. And that's why one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this today. I just think that they need to be conscious of that. You know what would be interesting, Cindy, is some of these, this app that you were just talking about, the BodyTrack and so forth. It would be interesting to map out, a golfer in their 20s, and then, as they progress, to continue to map it out and just see and identify some of the changes that happen as they age. I think, and I'm sure somewhere they're probably doing that anyways, but it would be interesting to follow a golfer and see how their foot activity changes throughout the course of their golf career. See whether they favor certain sides of the foot or areas of the foot more as they age in order to compensate for maybe injuries or discomfort or what have you. It'd just be interesting to kind of see that. But anyways, that was why I wanted to bring that up. I know you kind of answered this, but obviously as golfers age, expectations, I think, need to change as well. What do they need to be looking at, do you think, Cindy, as they get a little bit older? What areas do you think they need to focus on, and what do they need to spend less time worrying about as they play golf in their golden years?
Well, I think number one, you got to play appropriate tees. And it's funny now that the general golf population is aging. You'll see courses changing the color of the red tees that were always the ladies' tees, and now they're the forward tees, and they're not always red. Sometimes they're gold. And way back when, gold tees were back, and now gold tees are forward.
Right.
So I think that they need to play appropriate tees. And again, U.S. Kids Golf does that. They have these young kids, which the World Championships are going on right now in Pinehurst. They have young children playing appropriate tees so that everybody can shoot par or better. And I think really we should all do that, whether you're 8 or you're 78 or 88. I think you need to play appropriate tees where you can reach the greens reasonably, well on most holes, which will make it easier to score, which will make it a lot more fun. I mean, some of these kids playing in tournaments, they can't reach the green, so 95 or 120 is a really good score. And I think that's, again, that's a different issue, but I think, number one, play the right tee boxes because you're going to hit it shorter. You're going to lose distance. So, yeah, you need to change your expectations. And if you're not going to change where you play from, then you got to lower your expectation on what you're going to shoot. Because if you're playing a 420-yard par 4 and you only hit it 180 yards, par is 5. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, that's exactly. Yeah, no, that's perfect sense. And I agree with you 100%. I think that you need to move up. You might even have to move up 2 tee boxes, in order to make that happen. And I think, this is something that a lot of golfers have struggled with. They feel like, well, I'm out here and, I still got a lot of strength and I want to play from the regular tees, or I want to, I think I can still hit a good ball, so I want to play from the back tees. And their scores are just, going up instead of coming down or even maintaining, and then they get frustrated. So I think that, there's no shame in moving up a tee box, or even 2 in some cases, depending on the circumstances. But I think that, this is something that we have to help them work on a little bit too when we're teaching them, is make them understand that it's not a crime if they have to move up a tee box or so. In your opinion, what do you think needs to happen? From our standpoint, to keep a lot of our aging players motivated? Some of them have lost. I mean, I've had a number that have come to me over the years that just say, gosh, I just can't score as well, and they've just sort of lost that momentum and lost the desire to even play. I know we touched on a few things that could probably help motivate, but what do you try to do to help some of the older golfers that you're working with to stay motivated?
Well, I think it's their mindset, and golf is a game that is really, really hard, and I believe we've all had bad things happen to us with our golf game, and I think that the longer you've played, the more negative you can get, and therefore you lose hope. And it's funny because I've been a columnist for the Buffalo News for the last couple of years in the summer, and I talk about mindset and the mental game an awful lot. And I had a guy respond to one of my articles and said, "Thank you so much for writing this particular article. I'm 85 years old, and I'm still working on my game." And I thought, you know what? I've done my job. So I think it's your mindset and your outlook. And I guess, again, this guy yesterday that had the Shankopotamus going, he was way better chipping one-handed with his right hand. And I said, you know what I would do? I said, look, we're not going to fix this. This is like an anchor on you. It is a demon. You need a golf enema, and you're leaving for Ireland. You need to chip one-handed. And when you get there, you need to tell the boys you're with, hey, better than you one-handed than you do with two. You got to make a joke out of it. And he looked at me, he goes, Are you kidding? I said, no, I'm not kidding. I'm telling you, do you want a solution or do you want to sit there and muddle in your own self-pity? So again, sometimes they got to be slapped around a little bit to be made aware. Listen to what you're saying. Go look in the mirror. Get off the nail. Do something about it. So again, can you get better? Yeah. Again, we were talking about, because this particular head pro, this guy is a member of a private club, and the head pro's son has something really bad wrong with his back, and he had some kind of surgery. The young kid has got to learn to walk again. And he said, Cindy, this little boy is going to have multiple surgeries throughout his whole life. And I said, so how bad is this shank? Let's put it all in perspective. He goes, you know what, you're right. I said, so stop. Chip with one hand. Okay. And I think they need to be made aware that, you can become a grumpy old fart, or you can change your mindset and your outlook. Stop. Be grateful you're alive.
Yeah, exactly. I hear this, being in Florida, of course, is obviously a big area for a lot of snowbirds coming down here. And every winter I hear the same thing. These old codgers are grumbling, complaining about, everything. And I say the same as you. I said, be grateful you can still get out there and play. I mean, I know people that, are 90 years old that are out there playing golf, and you're only, 60s or barely even 70s. And you're grumbling, complaining, you're in better shape than they are, but they're going out and having a good time. They're having fun. Are they shooting, par? Probably not. But they're out there having a good time, so just be grateful. I agree with you 100%, Cindy. All right, we've got to move on. I see our guest is ready, so let me just introduce her, and then we'll bring our guest on and talk a little bit about what she's doing in the golf industry to help elevate. Her name is Wendy Gray, and she's a certified personal trainer, entrepreneur, and co-founder of Bargray Clothing. Bargray, just to tell you a little bit, it was founded by two women who enjoy golfing, but not necessarily its clothing. Friends Cassie Barkett, a lawyer and mother of three, and Wendy Gray, as I mentioned, a certified personal trainer, entrepreneur, and mother of three as well, decided to embark on the challenge of designing modern, flattering, feminine, and technical clothing for women golfers, utilizing only the finest quality of technical fabric to outfit the female golfer. Their pieces both functional, UV protection, cooling technology, utilizing also warming technology, reflective and antibacterial, and obviously at the same time making it flattering while maintaining a chic, modern style without compromising the classic look. And their catch line, if you will, is very interesting. We help all the time. So without further ado, Cindy, let's welcome our very special guest this morning, Wendy Gray.
Good morning, Wendy.
Hi, Cindy. You're actually Cassie Barkett's on the line as well.
Oh, okay.
Hello, guys.
I wasn't sure if she was joining us or not. Hi, Cassie. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having us.
Not a problem.
Tell me again
my
what
apologies.
the
I wasn't sure.
tagline is. I didn't hear that tagline. I'm in the car and I couldn't hear it.
Oh, Bargray, we make you look good all the time.
Nice. I like that. So, lady, tell us about your. I see here why you started this, because you were sick and tired of looking like an old frump, and there wasn't any flattering, nice clothing for a nice young woman or middle-aged or old woman who wants to look good on the course. But tell us your motivation for starting this.
I think primarily our focus was, like you said, not only to look better than what was out there, but truly to find some performance apparel that functioned for us when we played. The things we sort of liked were developed for athletes, but other sports, not golf. And when you think about being out on the course and playing 18 holes, there are certain needs and wants for your apparel when you're out there, and we carefully incorporated all those things into our apparel. And so they function so well, and they happen to also look great.
Well, and this is Ted, by the way, and that's something that's important as well. You want to look good while you're out there. You want to feel comfortable, and you want it to be functional as well. Did you want to design it so that it could also be worn as sort of everyday casual wear as well? For not just on the golf course, but if you were doing something else, you kind of mix it up and match it with another part of an outfit. Did you want to have that functionality as well?
I wouldn't say that was the driving force behind our, inception of our company and our clothing, but we all know that it's just sort of more of a in the industry, this athleisure concept of going from one place to the other and wearing your clothes that you worked out in to go to lunch or brunch or anything like that. So certainly our clothes do that, but it wasn't our motivation. It wasn't like you have to wear this skirt to golf in and then also go have dinner. That really wasn't what we were going for. But this athleisure concept plays well into our line. We have a lot of pieces that Wendy and I and all of our customers love to wear, even if they're not going to go play golf. I mean, they just function well when you're running errands and going to do things. So we're lucky in that regard.
Fantastic. Now, you also, I believe you went to the PGA merchandising show. Is that correct? I think a couple of years ago.
We've gone the last 2 years, actually. And when we started our company, Wendy and I did a lot of research. We didn't just, blow right out of the gate. We spent a good year and a half really researching what it was going to take to develop a line and design the clothes and choose the Pantone colors and find the right fabrics. So we went to textile shows, we went to markets, and then we actually went to the PGA show just as, walk around guests. And then the last 2 years we've actually had a booth at the PGA show in Orlando. And then you'll see us in Vegas the 14th. So we'll be there as well.
Now, how was it received at the PGA show? Did you have to, I don't know, what's the word? Was it a hard sell for the Stadio Country Club, or were they thrilled to see something new and exciting?
The latter, absolutely. We had so many positive people come by and love our stuff. I mean, the length is there. It's classic. It respects the game, but yet it looks modern, and it flatters all. You guys, we listened to you guys talk about the aging golfing population, and I just couldn't help but think to myself that this line trends to all ages. I mean, we just have customers across all generations that really love our stuff. So we were very well received by the country clubs and boutiques and, outlets. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Now, do you have sales reps around the country, or are you trying to sell, just through pro shops and then online? Tell us what your marketing strategy is.
We have a mixed bag. I mean, we have all those things. We have sales reps around. We have sort of the next level would be like an ambassador, where we provide a lot of these girls that are trying to break out and play with clothing and sort of goodwill relationships with them, and they also sell the clothes. And we have a working relationship with them. And then we're in all of our local pro shops here in Tulsa, Oklahoma, as well as, regional and across the country, Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Idaho, Michigan, Florida. I could go on and on. We're in a lot of pro shops. So, and then we have online sales and Amazon. So we're getting out there. And Wendy's behind all of our marketing. She's just been so great just getting us out there. We have zero budget, so we're just tackling it on the social media front, really well. She's gotten us out there.
That's
Thank
awesome.
you, Kathy.
That's how I found Wendy. Yeah, it's on LinkedIn, so thank you. Wendy, do you have anything to say about the marketing and the social media stuff?
I mean, honestly, we probably wouldn't be where we are right now if we didn't have it. I mean, I can't imagine us trying to get our stuff out there without just having that. It's been huge.
Yeah, social media is can be a great tool to get your name and get your brand out there and that. What's in the future for you guys? How do you want to expand from here? You've obviously got a number of different pieces. I've been on your website, so I've seen some of the things that you have to offer and that. Is there sort of a next generation for Bargray clothing? What areas do you want to expand into, or are you going to basically stay in a certain segmented market and just sort of go with that as your main thing? How do you see yourself 5 years down the road?
Well, and Wendy can add to this. I think we sort of have this collective agreement that we really love our mission, which is to empower women. And so a lot of people ask us, are you going to come out with a men's shirt? Well, we're really not out there to try to compete against the big companies that make really great men's shirts. We're really out there to provide what's missing, which is this, great women's clothes for women golfers. Certainly, we have a lot of interest. We have local high school teams that want to wear our stuff. So we've size graded some of our clothing down to junior sizes. We have extra small. We go all the way from extra small to extra large. And so a lot of our high school girls can wear our stuff. So we would like to trend to juniors eventually. But in terms of our mission to empower women, that's kind of where we are right now.
Right. Who is the biggest, bracket of customer right now? What age area? Is it the junior market? Is it the middle age, or is it the senior market? Where is the majority of your customers fall into?
Honestly, that's kind of where I was going with my statement earlier, which is we really trend nicely across all of these generations.
Okay.
I couldn't pick one pool that is buying more than the other. Maybe 35 to 50, but we have women in their 70s wearing it. We have girls in their teens wearing it. So we've been really fortunate to have a pretty wide span of customers there.
I have to ask,
Yeah,
I'm so intrigued by how you started this. Do you guys sew?
I've actually taken a sewing class before. It's very cave woman-ish. I can do costumes for my kids maybe, but we had some help. Wendy had some contacts here in town that helped us sketch and sew our very, very first ideas. And then we just sort of branched out from there. So
now, where is the clothing made? Is it manufactured here? Is it manufactured overseas? How long does it take from the time you order? You have to pre-order like lots and lots of pieces. I just think it's so interesting that you took this upon yourself to do this.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been a learning curve because you read our bio at the intro of our little segment here, and neither one of us has really any experience in this sort of business. So we're self-taught, and we've just learned the ropes as we've gone. But we have a sourcing company in the U.S. that has been just wonderful to work with, and they're out of Chicago. And we work closely with them and send them our designs and size scales and measurements. And Wendy and I literally just, in one of our homes, spread out across our kitchen counters and have Pantone books and measuring tapes and sketches, and we just do it ourselves out of our living rooms. And then our fabric and our cut and sew company is out of Shanghai. And they have to order in advance. So we have to think about getting our colors and our trends for upcoming seasons. We have to think about 6 to 8 months in advance.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you ever stop and say, what are we doing?
I think in the middle of the night, maybe countless times, right?
Yes.
Like 3 o'clock in the morning, you sit straight up and say, oh, my God.
That's Wendy's favorite time. She likes 3 a.m.
Yeah.
That's definitely it.
Let me ask you, ladies, something. Obviously, you have other careers as well. So, Cassie, I understand that you're a lawyer. I don't know whether you're still practicing or not, or if this is sort of taking a lot of your time. But how do you find that balance? Because obviously, when you're first starting off this new venture, you've got to be committed to it and that, but at the same time, you've got to be able to continue on your day-to-day lives. How did you work out that balance, or did you just jump in both feet and say, okay, we're going to put this other aside and we're going to focus 100% on this? What was your process?
The process actually has been perfect for Wendy and I. I think to get into something like this, you have to have the perfect partner. I don't think I could have done this with anyone other than Wendy, honestly. We complement each other very well. But to just deal with the everyday stuff we have going on, we're moms, and like you said, we have other jobs. I don't really practice law a whole lot anymore, but it really is one day at a time. We'll talk every day and say, here's the plan for today, or here are these orders. I can fill these, you can fill those. It's literally 1 day, 1 hour at a time, and we just kind of plot it out, and then we have big picture, obviously, strategies and stuff too in play, but that's just kind of how we do it, and it's worked out great.
Yeah, and I agree.
I think that's
awesome.
Yeah. Now, your husband's also obviously been very supportive. Now, I realize this is a women's line that you're going after, but do you get their feedback as to what they think as well? Do you show them some of your ideas and say, what do you think of this? Do you think this would look good on so and so, and how do you incorporate them, or do they just sort of sit back and just and let you run with it?
I think a little of both. I mean, they are they're empowering to both of us and allow us to do what we like, but we definitely turn to them and ask them, their opinions on fashion, because I mean, the women are looking good for themselves and, let's face it, others. So it's nice to get their feedback on what looks good. And then, they've been to every show with us. They've hauled boxes. They've, loaded up dollies. I mean, they've been great.
That was going to be my next question. You need a little muscle here and there to move those boxes around when the orders come in, and going to trade shows and things like that. I think it's fantastic, and I'll be quite honest. I went to the I didn't go this last year, or in fact, I didn't go the last 2 years to the PGA merchandising show. So I don't know if you're going to be there in 2018 or not, but I'll make a point of stopping by your booth. But I'll be honest. The one thing that I noticed at the show when I was there a couple of years ago was just some of the great young and up and starting and I say in the women's category, in my opinion, stole the show away from many of the main suppliers out there. There were just so many great ideas, and I can kind of envision that this is really what you guys have done, is you've come out with some innovative thoughts and ideas and have decided to run with it. And I think this is great for the industry. And I hope more and more people obviously do the same thing, obviously for different products. But I kind of envision this is what you guys did, is you just saw a potential market here that was not being addressed, and put together a business plan and went forward with it. But when I was at the show, this was one thing that really impressed me, was a lot of the great young female entrepreneurs that had come into the show at that time. So I can imagine it was even better the last couple of years. What did you see when you were down there that kind of impressed you? And did it give you any ideas, or anything at the show that you saw that, hey, this is something that we would like to tap into as well?
I have to agree with you. I kind of like these new smaller companies coming up with new innovative ideas. It just it makes it more interesting for the market, and it makes it more interesting for the athletes. So yeah, we're just blessed to be a part of it.
Well, I think I would like to see, even if you make one men's shirt, just because a lot of the men's shirts that I saw down the PGA show were not great, and I'll tell you, they didn't even compare to what the women had at that time. I mean, it was just, obviously women are much more fashion forward than men are, but it was just sort of the same old boring thing for the guys to wear. In my opinion, it's just nothing new. It was just a different color scheme and maybe a few stripes running in a different direction. But the ladies just had so many great options out there, and I wish so. Make one men, just for me and your husbands, make one men's shirt for the line. Other than that, I don't care. You run with it. Cindy, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay. So tell us what you're doing, because your tagline or your mission is to empower women. Tell us what you're doing, who you're partnering with, or how we can help you promote the cause.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yeah, and I'll let Wendy rattle off more than what I can pull off the top of my head, but we have partnered with Women with Drive and Backswing Golf Events, which is an all-female former pro company that will go out and support your private tournaments and be your pro, so to speak, on the tee box. And just a lot of other women organizations that have come out of the woodwork, with the Peggy Bell Junior Girls. We've provided clothing for them. Wendy helped me battle through some of these.
I think you're hitting them. I mean, Backswing's huge, and Peggy Bell, Women with Drive for sure. Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Yeah, it's been great.
That's
and,
awesome.
and the mission is to get these girls interested in playing golf, and if for any reason whatsoever they've hesitated to play, maybe based on what is out there to wear, as superficial as that sounds, if it motivates them to go out and try the sport, we want them to do it. So there's so many benefits to this sport. We want everyone to get out there and try it and look good while doing it, right?
Absolutely.
Right. Exactly.
Definitely.
Let me just throw out one name to both of you ladies, and if you've got an opportunity to jot it down, you might want to consider doing this. You may already know her, or may have spoken to her or not, but her name, she was actually a guest recently on our show. Elisa Gaudet is how it's pronounced, and it's Elisa and Gaudet. And she started Executive Golf International, I believe is the company name, but she also does Women's Golf Day. And just to give you an idea of the number, she just started this a few years ago, and she is at topping over, I think, 800 this past year in 2017. It was June 5th, I believe, or 6th was the date. It's the first Monday, I think, in June. She was at 700, I believe, in 42 courses around the world. It's a one-day event, and it's been the last couple of years. And it was in 46 countries. And
wow.
I think
That's
there was
tremendous.
about 30 or 40. And it's for women. It's for exactly what you just talked about. So you may want to reach out to her, and I can certainly I'll give Cindy the information afterwards, and she can forward it to you how to reach out to her. But she's on Facebook as well and social media, but that's her name. But that's what she does, is that the whole purpose of this Women's Golf Day event is to get women who maybe have never played the sport, or some that do, that just want to go out and again, all about empowering women. So this may be somebody that you may want to reach out to, and there may be an opportunity. But and actually, it's going to even be bigger and better for next year. I think June 5th is going to be the date in 2018. Will be the next one. But it was very, very successful. She's had incredible exposure on the Golf Channel and other major networks, and she's all over the world. So this may be an opportunity, but just food for thought. I'll get you the information and relay it through Cindy and let you guys run with it. But I think the cause that you're doing, I think the cause is fantastic, and we'll certainly do what we can on our show here to continue to help promote it. Anything we can do, we'll be more than happy to do that. But so tell us about Vegas. What's happening in Vegas?
It's sort of it's a PGA show. It's the same as the show they do in Orlando. It's more geared toward apparel, as far as we understand it. We've not been. This is our first year to go, and it's, as you can imagine, the west side of our country is still in season with their golf, Arizona and so forth. So they don't really go as well. They're not as well traveled to the Orlando show in January because they're in season. So they provide this show in August for those courses that don't travel to Florida. One, to make that long of a trip, and two, probably they're right in the middle of their season. So we are doing exclusively this one-to-one program. It's a one-day private sort of appointment with some courses there. There's also, you could have a booth and do the show that continues on for a couple more days after that, but we're not going to be able to do that. Our children are starting school and a lot of other conflicts with our schedules, but we're going to go up there for the one-to-one and meet, and I'll get to see our sourcing company and take those guys out to dinner and see them. So it'll be a nice little trip up there and get some exposure. Yeah.
Now
you had some
listeners find you?
Sorry.
How can our listeners find you and purchase clothing?
They can find us at www.bargray.com, and that's our store. You can shop there. We're also on Amazon. If listeners would prefer to just go to Amazon, and you can look for Bargray pieces there. And ask your local pro shop. If they don't carry us, suggest they reach out to us, and we'll send them, a sample pack, and there's no minimums or anything like that. So we'd love to get out there.
So there is no minimum order?
Perfect.
No.
Do you logo the clothing?
We will. We're very flexible. We work with everyone.
So is it screen print or embroidery?
We embroider the logos that we've done thus far, but we're not closed-minded to any requests, and we don't want any strict rules that would prevent us from getting it, out there. So just ask us. We'll probably make it happen.
Okay, so there is no minimum order for a country club who wants logoed shirts? Or
Correct.
Would there be if you get it? Wow, that's really nice. I have an embroidery business, so I
try us out.
Yeah, I understand that, but that's great because that's hard to do, to set up a machine for 1 or 2 or 3 or 6 pieces instead of 72. That's awesome.
Right.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, ladies, we want to thank you for joining us this morning on the Women of Golf. And just to remind everybody, if they're interested in checking out and learning more about this great clothing line, they can go to www.bargray.com, and that's spelled B-A-R-G-R-A-Y. By all means, please go out and do that. Ladies, much continued success, and I will get that information through to you in the next little bit for you to follow up on if you choose. But thanks for coming on this morning and joining us on the program.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks so
You're
much.
very welcome.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
You're welcome. All right. That was Wendy Gray and Cassie Barquette joining us from Bargray Clothing. Very interesting line. As I said, I've checked out a little bit of it in that, and certainly very, very stylish, and I'm sure they're going to do extremely well. I want to thank you as well for joining us this morning. Cindy and I always enjoy bringing this broadcast each and every Tuesday, and we hope that you enjoy it as well, and please continue to help spread the word. For our show as well, the Women of Golf, you can find us at blogtalkradio.com is where you can find us generally, but you can also go to itunes.com or stitcher.com as well and just type in Women of Golf in the search key and you'll get to the show there as well. For those of you that are just tuning in late, if you weren't able to listen to the earlier parts of the broadcast and you want to listen to it, go to blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf. and just scroll down to the on-demand section, and the recorded version will be there for you to listen to when it's convenient for you. But on that note, again, we want to thank our very special guests from Bargray Clothing, Wendy Gray and Cassie Barquette. Thanks, ladies, for joining us this morning, and again, much continued success. And on behalf of Cindy Miller and I, thank you, and have a great week. We'll see you next week on the Women of Golf. Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Ted. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
Bye.